Welcome back in, everybody. Today, we are talking about what I call the top 3 power moves in Accubid Anywhere. If you have these 3 things down, then your flexibility is going to be very powerful. Before we get into that, we have to mention the whole purpose of this YouTube channel is to bring awareness to the Accubid Anywhere database we have. So if you're new to Anywhere or you just never quite got the Anywhere database you currently have to the point where you like it, then that's where we come in. We can have this database to you in about a week or two, depending on the process, but still pretty darn quick to get all the content you need. We've been developing it for over 8 years, so you can imagine we've got a lot of development under the hood, and that's what most people are after. So if you need that, reach out. Our email is up there at the top. Also, on our main YouTube channel page, you can get to our website, book a demo, stuff like that. So feel free to venture over there and get what you need. So back to today. First of all, we are going to talk about the toggle filter row, which is up here on the top. I got that bar up there by right-clicking, and then the toggle filter row is right there in the right-click dialog. And then it puts this bar up top here. You can do a couple things with this bar. Number 1, you can search for things. So for an example, if I was wondering if I entered the feeder to P1E, I could type P1E, and then in fact I would see this, and I'd say, okay, yep, I've got the switchboard to panel P1E, perfect. So that's one way you can use it. The other way is what we're going to do today for isolation purposes. This is a small scale example of what we're talking about. I have other things in this audit trail other than the feeders. So typically it's bad practice to select everything, because then I could be changing the attributes of other things that I'm not intending to. So it can be a little dangerous. So we want to isolate only what we want to change. So I would go up here, and typically the mindset here is you want to isolate it by the last thing you're going to change, because for an example, what we're going to do today is we're going to isolate these feeders and then change them from copper to aluminum. So if you're changing the size, that's where I'm going with that comment. Well, if you're going to start with the wire size, you wouldn't want to isolate it by the wire size, because then once you change the wire size, it's going to fall off that filtration, and then you're going to have to filter it by something else. And you'll see what I mean once we get going. So I'm going to isolate it by 2.5, because that's the 2.5 inch conduit that I want. And then you can see what that did. It dropped off all of that other stuff in the audit trail that doesn't have this 2.5 in it. So again, this is the isolation aspect of it. What is in the string of this group of assemblies that I want that I can isolate? And in this case, we're going to start with that. Second power move is this feature. I now am going to click up in the top corner, highlight everything, and right click, and then the change breakdowns and attributes. This is power move number 2. Number 1 was the toggle filter row. And then I'm going to change the specification to an aluminum. And then I'm going to hit cancel here real quick just to show everybody. So if I toggle this down, just again to kind of magician thing, showing the sleeves so there's no tricks. So this is copper, as you can see. By default, that's all copper, and they all are. We can just spot check those. Copper, copper, yep. So then that's what I'm after with this second move. I'm going to select all those, right click, change breakdowns attributes, change this to aluminum, which is there, okay. Then it's going to resolve, which it did. Now that changed my wire to aluminum, but I still have this 225 amp scenario going on. I want to now change this to what the equivalent aluminum size would be. So that's power move number 3. Now, some of you may be saying already, well, you've probably seen that feeder by amp assembly that's in a lot of these databases. I have a couple opinions on that, and I typically will do the swap like this to a copper and aluminum because you can control the size of everything. When you use those feeder by amp type assemblies, it's going to a lookup table, and then you're just going to get what you're going to get. Some engineers upsize, downsize, middle size, all kinds of different ways. So the chances of that chart hitting the target you need, I think it's kind of dicey sometimes. Doing it like this, you know what you're going to get. You can force it to a certain voltage drop value or anything like that if you had to. So that's kind of my stance there. I'm going to select everything again by the corner box. Now remember our isolation. I'm not going to start with conduit size. I'm going to start with wire size. I'm going to right click again. Third power move is update global variable. What this does, it's asking me, what do you want to change? Well, I changed from copper to aluminum, so my equivalent to aluminum would be a 300 here. So I want to take that 4/0 to a 300. So that's what I'm going to answer in this box. I'm going to drop that down, say I want to change wire size, then it's in essence saying to what? Well, I want 300 and then hit OK. Now with that move right there, you can see what my prior comment was. If we would have isolated by 4/0 up here, then now all this stuff would have dropped off because the 4/0 doesn't apply anymore. So then I would have had to have filtered it by something else. Then maybe the conduit size after I said, whoops, everything disappeared. So that's why you want to pin something up here that you can take a couple swags without it disappearing. Then when you change the final thing, yes, it's going to disappear. But at that point, you know you're done. And you'll see that. So just stay tuned. We're going to get to the end there and you'll see what I mean by it disappearing. So I'm going to right click again immediately with everything still highlighted. Update global variable again. Now this is a different question. That's why we have to take another swag at this. We have ground size because it's still the number 4, which is the copper size. So this is asking me, well, what do you want to change it to? We're going to say number 2. Okay. And then finally, this is another debate. Sometimes this compact aluminum will fit in the same size, but we'll say for our sake, and probably you would do this, we're going to take the 2.5 inch up to 3. So same thing. We're going to right click, make sure everything's highlighted, which it is still, and then update global variable. Change what, of course? We're going to say conduit size, 3 inch. Now once I hit OK here, then everything's going to disappear because again, this criteria isn't going to match anymore because we're changing it. So we're going to hit OK. Everything dropped off. That's fine. Now I can kill off this filter. And then you can see once I do that, I see everything, even the stuff that I isolated from the beginning. And here you've got everything in order, all the sizes. We had full control over it. Not too bad. And we toggle this down. We've got everything sized. We've got aluminum. Perfect. That could have been this many things, 200, whatever. The other great thing about this is you can do VEs like this very quickly. Even if you didn't take off that feeder by amp, which I, again, not a huge fan of, this is how I'm typically handling scenarios like this. So you could take off a job and then at the end, do this swap, get the difference of the final price, then get an idea of what VE you would give somebody, and then you could merely just swap this stuff back. Because that was what? 1, 2, 3 questions, and then swapping a spec. So it's not a huge heavy lift for the flexibility that you get out of it. So I think that's perfectly reasonable to get that level of detail and control. So just to recap. Toggle filter row, number 1. Number 2, the change breakdown attribute. And then the third, update global variable. With those 3 things working in conjunction like this, you can see what you can do. And this is just one example. That's why I call it the perfect trifecta, is with those 3 things, pretty much any assembly or any scenario you can control like that. So it's about endless. And why I call those pretty much the top 3 power moves, because they're just ones that you can rinse and repeat, and the value just keeps going and going and going as long as you know to do stuff like that. We'll keep this one nice and clean and short. That's it for today. I'm glad we got one of these in there. It's been a while since we've actually put some meat on the bone. So I like that we covered some actual topics. Again, if you need us, reach out. We also do training as well. So go back to our main YouTube channel, check out our website, check out our scheduling page that we got. We got all kinds of stuff over there. If you're new to the database world, you just want to check us out. There's a frequently asked questions on the website as well. So feel free to check that out and read about what we got to offer, and we'd be glad to help you out. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.